So we'd like to welcome Mother Urmila, who's traveled all the way from Europe to be with us here today. She joined Krishna consciousness basically when she was 17, 18 years old in Manhattan, New York. Or shortly thereafter, she took initiation from Srila Prabhupada in the early 70s. Mother Urmila has been on the frontier of education in ISKCON and has been teaching and involved in education for over 30 years. She ran a school in Detroit as well as North Carolina. After retiring from running the school, she did a graduate program at UNC Chapel Hill. At the school, at UNC Chapel Hill is one of the top universities in the country. The teachers there were very impressed with her brilliance, and they were amazed that she didn't already have a master's degree, and they said they just put her directly to the PhD track because she was too brilliant to be just in the master's degree program. And she's also authored many books and publications in BTG, as well as Vaikuntha Children, which is a whole curriculum. She's now involved in curriculum and consulting with different schools around the world, and is now leads a more renounced life, traveling and preaching around the world. Her classes are very intellectually stimulating and thought-provoking, and basically you can become very educated just from listening to her classes. So we're very fortunate to have her here today, and we hope that she'll return. Thank you.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Saibadaleshna Manti Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesi Sanyavani Paskachade Satarani Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to look today at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, text 39. This is June 9th, 2013 in Boston, Massachusetts. And we're going to be examining in this verse how to see God everywhere. So many times people have the idea that religion is something for once a week or once a day, where I have this kind of pie of my life, and one slice is spirituality, and one slice is my job, and one slice is my family. And one of the things that I was looking for when I came to the Hare Krishna movement, and one of the main reasons I decided to join the Hare Krishna movement, was that it promotes a way of life and a way of living by which one can find spirituality at every moment. One can be absorbed in the spiritual at every moment. Actually, this concept that things are material is an illusion. Everything is the energy of Krishna, and that energy is everywhere. And therefore, in the 14th chapter of Krishna book, which is taken from the 14th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes, the existence of Maya, or illusion, is only within the mind. The existence of illusion is only within the mind. Therefore, if one changes one's mind, if one changes one way of thinking, then one will see everything as it really is. And how is everything really? Everything really is spiritual. Sarva kalamidam brahma. And one will see everything spiritually. So we're going to look at this text 39 from chapter 11. This is Arjuna praying to Krishna in his form as the universe. Vayor yamognir varuna shashanka Prajapatistam prapitam mahascha namo namastestu sahasrakritva punashcha bhuyopi namo namaste. Translation. You are air, and you are the supreme controller. You are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. You are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times and again and again. So, Arjuna is saying to Krishna, you are air, you are fire, you are water, you are the moon. And of course, Krishna also says this, Bhumir Arpanalo Vayu Kamano Budvir Ebracha. These are his Shakti Bina, his separated energies, solids, liquid, gases, and space. So we're going to now go through a little meditation on everything we see in this world and what we perceive with our material senses, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch, what we taste, what we think about, that if we adjust our thinking about it just slightly, then instead of seeing the illusion, we will perceive the reality. So we're going to start off with Earth, and by Earth, we do not just mean the planet or soil and rocks, but we mean any solid objects. Any solid objects. But our meditation here is going to be particularly on the planet Earth and on soil. So the Earth is very solid and dependable, huh? We build our buildings on it, put everything on it. And Krishna is also very dependable. When we're walking, standing, building on the earth, we can remember that one of the qualities of Krishna is that he's dependable. He's so dependable that even those who are atheistic, even those who are demoniac, know that if they follow the laws of the universe, they will also get rewarded. So we do not have a concept in the Vedas, like in some religious systems on the earth today, that if you love God, you go to heaven, and if you don't love God, you go to hell. That's not our concept. In fact, there's a description in the Bhagavatam of what's called the subterranean heavenly planets. So these are heavenly spheres for atheists who are good, well-behaved atheists. And in those heavens, it's a temporary heaven, it's not an eternal heaven. In those heavenly planets, there's no talk of God. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go to the regular heaven where everybody's pious. You know? And there's not even any sunshine. You don't get reminded of the power of God. So the point is that even the atheists, they know if we follow the laws of the universe, just like we have in the Bhagavatam, Hiranyakashipu, who was a great atheist, but because he followed universal laws, he was able to get power. So sometimes people don't understand this. Sometimes people will say, why is it that those who are atheists can have positions of power and those who are pious sometimes are in difficulty? Because there's rules, and Krishna is dependable. So just like the earth holds up, the earth is dependable, and the earth holds up everyone. So when we're walking on the earth, when we're building on the earth, we can remember, oh, Krishna is also dependable like that. Krishna holds up everyone. Krishna supports everyone. And then the earth also reminds us of the fact that Krishna says that he is the fragrance of the earth. Yes? Yeah. So actually all different smells come originally from the earth. All the flowers that grow from the earth, that all have different fragrance. There's the fragrance of the magnolia or the gardenia or the lily. It all comes from the same soil. And we can think about just the smell of the earth itself, if you've ever worked in a garden and worked with the earth. So that's all coming from the earth. So Krishna is there whenever we think of these smells, with so many wonderful smells. We can be reminded that the original, most fragrant person is also Krishna. And that Krishna has so many varieties of fragrance. Krishna is actually a real variety person. He has such infinite variety of different fragrance, isn't it? I mean, the perfume companies, every year they can come out with a new smell by manipulating these fragrances that come from the earth. So how fragrant and wonderful must be Krishna. And of course, the earth also reminds us of power. So although we're talking about the earth as being dependable, sometimes the earth sometimes there's an earthquake or a volcano. That Krishna says, time I am, kalos me. That Krishna is also the destroyer of everything. And in a similar way, that although Krishna is very dependable as a person, he also has the capacity to say, okay, now everything's finished. Just like the child plays with toys and then finished. So there's also an end to the universe when everything is destroyed. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. And Krishna also represents that destructive force, the ultimate time. Then the earth is the support and foundation of everything. If we think about even a building, so it's made of all things coming from the earth, right? All the buildings that we make, they're made out of bricks, which come from the earth. They're made out of trees that grow from the earth, or stone that comes from the earth. It's the foundation and the support of everything. So Krishna also says that he is the foundation and support. When we're in our home, we can remember, oh, Krishna is the foundation and the support of everything. Right? Sutre mani gana iva. Sutre means a thread, mani means a pearl. So Krishna said he's like the pearl under the threads under the pearl. If we look at a string of pearls, how do we know there's a thread? How do we know? By the arrangement. So you don't see the thread, you only see the pearls, but because they're staying there, they're not falling down, they're in a line. So you know there must be a thread. So in the same way, what's supporting everything, we may not see that Krishna is there, but by the action we can see. By the action we can see. So just in the same way that it's the earth that's supporting everything, holding everything up. So Krishna is holding everything up. And all of our necessities come from the earth, right? Most. We're getting so many of our necessities for life. In the same way, ultimately, Krishna is giving us all of our necessities. And the earth is, like in these homes, it's giving us shelter. Krishna says, Mame kam sharanam vraja. Come and take shelter of me. So we take products from the earth and we create them to give us shelter. Whenever you come in your home and you're feeling, oh, now I'm in a shelter. You know, and now you come in from the rain. So the other day it was raining very hard. So you come in from the rain and you feel, okay, now I'm in my shelter. Now I'm not wet anymore. I can be warm, or I can be cool. I can have my things protected from thieves and from insects. So in the same way, we are actually spiritual beings. We're spiritual beings. And when we revive that memory that I am a spiritual being and I'm part and parcel of Krishna, then we also feel completely sheltered. Then we feel nothing can actually harm us. Apparently it may harm our body, but nothing can really harm us. So anytime we're in our home and we feel this, yes, now I have some shelter, we can remember that Krishna is the ultimate shelter. And of course our homes not only shelter us in a literal gross sense, but we generally think of our home as a shelter in a subtle sense. We think of our home as where our parents raised us, you know, being with our mother and father, and unless some of you had a very difficult childhood, which is becoming more and more common, unfortunately. So one can think when one goes home that Krishna is the ultimate mother, as he's saying in this verse. He's the grandfather. He's the real mother and father and grandfather that give us our ultimate shelter. Then the earth is also the origin and the resting place of our bodies. Our bodies are sustained from the earth. It's formed from the foods that we eat that grow from the earth. Just like my finger, you know, yesterday it was a chapati. Yesterday it was a piece of bread or an apricot, right? And now it's a finger. So what's sustaining us is coming from the earth. And then when I leave this body, then the body's going to go back in the earth. Either it will be buried in the earth, or it will be burned, right? Or in some parts of the world, they leave it out for animals to eat. but in some way it's going to go back into the earth. So in the same way, Krishna is our origin. We come from Krishna and we rest also in Krishna. Therefore, we can see Krishna's divine qualities in this function of earth. Then it's very satisfying and peaceful to work with the earth. If you ever grow things. Anyone here ever plant anything? Anybody here ever grow anything? Plant anything? Yes, when you work with the earth. Isn't it very satisfying and peaceful? Very therapeutic? Putting in the seeds and, right? And so can remember that we also find a lot of peace and satisfaction when we spend time with Krishna, when we chant his holy name, when we are with him in any kind of meditation. Then people talk a lot. Jai, she gotta go below. People talk a lot about being centered or being grounded, being balanced, having a balanced life. So what is more balancing and centering and grounding than the earth? When we walk on the earth, you walk barefoot on the earth, you feel very centered and grounded and balanced. But the ultimate center and grounding and balancing, of course, is Krishna. So when you get that sense, remember that Krishna is the ultimate centering and grounding. And not only is it satisfying to work with the earth in terms of planting things, but also the earth is the source of the materials for creativity. When you do painting, when you do sculpture, all those materials come from the earth. So in the same way, we can remember that Krishna is also the ultimate creator. How he's creating the sunset and the sunrise and all the bodies of all living things and so much incredible artistry. I mean, whatever we can make is just a dim reflection or imitation of Krishna's creative genius. And then the earth planet is the largest object that we deal with in our everyday life. And Krishna is also talked about as the biggest of the biggest. Right? And we can't see beyond the horizon. We can never really see the whole earth planet. Even if you go in a spaceship, you're only seeing half of it. In the same way, we can never know all of the glories of God as we look out over the expansive horizon. We can remember how we never know all the glories of God. Then we have a lot of attachment to the earth. Right? We have a lot of attachment to our homeland. People are not only do we have a sense of shelter in our home, but we have a general sense of attachment to wherever we grew up. Just like yesterday we went to Rath Yatra in Manhattan, and I grew up in Manhattan in New York. And just being there, I felt like, yes, this is my place. So everyone has this kind of sense, this is my home. Right? One of the devotees came to me and said, well, Urmila, welcome home. And people are so attached to their homeland, they're willing literally to cut off their right arm for their homeland. Isn't it? Somebody was saying to me the other day, is there any amount of money for which you would give your right arm away? If someone offered you $1,000, would you cut off your right arm? $1 million, $1 billion. Who would do that? Nobody, right? There's no amount of money for which you would cut off your right arm. But for love of country, people are willing to lose their right arm. Isn't it a fact? Doesn't matter what country it is. Doesn't matter what time in history. People have been willing to join the military and lose their arm, lose their leg, lose their eyes, lose their life for love of homeland. Isn't it correct? Yes. Such deep attachment to the homeland. But actually, that is the kind of attachment we should have for Krishna. Krishna is our real home. Our real home is not the home of this body on the earth. Our real home is with Krishna. So whenever we notice this kind of attachment to homeland, and we can be reminded that those who realize that Krishna is the ultimate shelter, those that realize that in Krishna is the ultimate home, is it so surprising that such persons are willing to sacrifice everything for Krishna? And not only are we attached to our homeland in an emotional sense, but we're all attached to the earth in a very literal physical sense. I don't see anybody here floating in the sky. Huh? We're all stuck, aren't we? There's this force called gravity that sticks us to the earth. You can jump a little bit, but you have to come back down. You can go up in your airplane, and you have to come back down. So Prabhupada says that this force of gravity is actually Krishna. I mean, literally it's Balaram. But this is God. The word Krishna means all attractive. So we're all being attracted to the earth. When are we without gravity? How can one forget Krishna? People say, how do I remember Krishna at work? Well, are you experiencing gravity? And you can remember, just like this planet, which is just a speck in the universe, is exerting so much attraction that we are literally stuck to it. So in the same way, Krishna, as the all-attractive, is pulling us to him. Now, the earth can remind us of Krishna's opulence of wealth. Krishna has unlimited amounts of 6 opulences: beauty, wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, and renunciation. And the earth reminds us of Krishna's opulence of wealth, because most wealth comes from the earth. Most of what people use as money comes from the earth, with the exception perhaps of pearls or something like that come from the water. In fact, even our cash, our paper money comes from trees that go from the earth. Even our plastic credit cards come from oil that comes from the earth. So next time you pull out your credit card, you can remember that Krishna has unlimited wealth. We have gotten all of our wealth from the earth, and in the same way, Krishna is the source of unlimited wealth, right? In our jewels, our credit cards, our paper money, land, the earth itself, right, is wealth. The houses that we build on the earth, made of elements from the earth, oil, natural gas, stone, all the things that we consider opulence come from the earth. And Krishna is the source of all opulence. And of course, we can also remember with the earth that Krishna has his abode also. God is not just some white light floating in the sky, but Krishna has his abode, Goloka eva nivasatya kilato bhuto, where he always stays. And his abode, of course, is not built out of ordinary bricks, but it's built out of conscious touchstone. And there's many different pastimes of Krishna that are related to earth. For example, Krishna came as Lord Varaha and lifted up the earth when it had fallen out of orbit in the universe due to the excessive drilling of oil by the demons in a former age. Or when Krishna is said to have eaten dirt and he opened his mouth, and there was the universe, not just a little bit of dirt. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also eating dirt. And there's a form of Krishna as earth. What form of Krishna is there as earth? Govardhan. Now that's Krishna in the form of earth. And of course, the deity forms of Krishna are also made out of products of the earth. Okay. So now we're going to do a meditation on water. Now, in essence, water in the Shastra refers to any material object that is in a liquid form. It doesn't just refer to H2O. So we're going to be looking at any liquids, but particularly water. So actually, I started with this whole kind of meditation from water. I was swimming in a pool in London, and I was thinking how water is very soft, but it's very powerful. It's very soft, but it's very powerful. In the same way, Krishna is very soft. It's one of his qualities. His skin is so soft that if a leaf touches it, it will change color. You know, you have to press really hard on my skin for it to change color. So he's very, very soft and delicate. And yet, he can kill these big demons, these big wizards. But we don't see the Krishna. Krishna doesn't look like one of these gorilla men. You know? You see these weightlifting guys, don't they look like gorillas? I don't know why they find it attractive. But anyway, so Krishna's not, he's not like that. We never see Krishna with like some big, you know, or like Atlas, Rockefeller Center in New York, they have a sculpture of Atlas, you know, holding out the earth. So Krishna's not like that. He's very soft and delicate, like water, and yet very strong. So water is also essential for health, right? Without water, we can't be clean. Without water, we can't, we have to drink water. So in the same way, Krishna is essential for health. Without Krishna, without spiritual life, nobody can be really healthy. So whenever one drinks water, whenever one bathes, right? And of course, bathing, especially for cleanliness, So Krishna is considered the supreme pure. Pavitram idam uttamam. Pavitram is the supreme pure. So we feel so refreshed when we take a bath, huh? When you're hot and dirty and sweaty, and you take a bath, you're like, oh yes, now I'm clean. So how much more so we feel refreshed and cleansed when we chant Krishna's name, when we're in Krishna's association. Then all of our illusion and all of our misgivings and all of our material contaminations are washed from us. And water is very graceful. And we like to watch the grace of the waves, huh? Like right here, we're here in Boston, we're near the ocean. People go to the ocean and watch the grace of the waves, or fountains. Everybody likes to watch the movement of fountains. So Krishna is, of course, also very graceful. He's Nataraj, he's the dancer. And he's always standing in a graceful, dancing way. Whenever we see the graceful movements of water, we can remember how graceful is Krishna. And water is very refreshing. Not only does it feel purifying and cleansing, but either to bathe in it, to see it, to drink it, we feel refreshed and rejuvenated. And so Krishna is also very refreshing. Being with Krishna, one feels that one has again come alive. But although water is very refreshing, it's also very soothing. If you go in the woods by a little creek or river, right? And you listen to the water, even by the ocean, by the waves. Many people, when they have trouble falling asleep at night, they'll listen to some recording of water, and it's very soothing. So being with Krishna is also very soothing. It's also very pacifying. And we feel, okay, I'm very sheltered. And then water can wear down anything, even stone. Right? Water over time, it will wear down stone. So Krishna, also associating with Krishna, can wear down our stone-like hearts and all of our material attachments. And water also purifies anything. So Krishna also, it purifies us of whatever evil or unwanted tendencies that we have. Then water is very musical. The sounds of water make very nice music. And of course, whenever we hear the sounds of water, the gurgling of the brook, the crashing of the waves, then we can remember how Krishna is also very musical. In fact, when Krishna jumped in the Yamuna to fight with Kaliya, it's explained by the acharyas that when he was hitting the water, it sounded like music, as Krishna was playing in the water. Then water is very secretive. You go to the ocean, and you don't see that there's a whole world hiding within the water. As soon as you put on some goggles, or if you've ever seen underwater photography, but you just go to the ocean, look, it just looks like practically all the same color, right? So Krishna is also very secretive. It's hard to find him, and it's hard to understand what's deep within him. It's very hard to understand. And then water, you go to especially the ocean, is very deep and broad. So Krishna is described like this also, as deep and broad. And just like the earth is a shelter, so the water is also a shelter for so many living entities. And when we see the water as a shelter, we can also remember Krishna. Then Krishna says, Rasoham apsukantaya, that I am the taste of water. Now, in fact, water provides the taste for everything. We did this as a science experiment when we were in school, where you take a towel, you can try this at home. Try this at home. So you, instead of don't try this at home, try this at home. So you can, when you go home today, you can take a towel or something and dry your tongue, dry out your mouth, and then put some sugar or salt, or you won't be able to taste it. So all taste has to have liquid. In fact, any sense enjoyment requires moisture. Your eyes have moisture, right? You can't see. If your eyes dry out, you can't see anything. You can't even open your eyes. Our nostrils are also lubricated, yes? Otherwise you can't smell if your nose is dried out. Our ears also have wax and lubrication, or we can't hear properly. Our skin, if your skin is all dried out and without any moisture, then the sense of touch becomes very displeasing. So any kind of enjoyment, any kind of sensual enjoyment requires moisture, requires liquid. And Krishna is called Akila Rasamrita Murti, that Krishna is the form of all rasa, or all tastes, or all pleasure. So whenever we're in contact with liquid, we can remember that whatever pleasure we're getting from anything sensory in this world, that actually the real source of that pleasure is Krishna. And then, of course, when you add water to other liquids, it increases the volume without being able to tell that you've added water, right? If you have juice, you add a little bit of water, it just seems like there's more juice. So when you add Krishna, it increases everything else. Now, water reminds me particularly of Krishna's opulence of fame. I was thinking that most of the very famous places in the world have to do with water, and Krishna, of course, is the most famous. Everyone has heard about God. And Krishna, water also reminds me of, like earth reminded me of Krishna's abode, so water reminds me of Krishna's pastimes. Because whenever people want to vacation, they go to a place where there's water or snow, generally. People go to some place where there's water or snow when they want to enjoy and have fun. So water reminds us that Krishna is always having fun. He's not just some old man, some faceless old man on a throne going, heaven, hell, heaven, hell. Have you seen that little track? Okay. But Krishna is always enjoying, and that Krishna is very youthful in his enjoyment. And then, of course, Krishna has many pastimes in relation to water. He's always swimming in the Jamuna and Radhakund, so many different places. He's lying in the water as Anantasesha. He's lying in the water as Vishnu, breathing out all the universes. He's playing in the water as Matsya, playing in the ocean of milk, of course, as Kurma. So now we're going to look at fire. So fire in the Shastra doesn't just mean fire itself, but any kind of radiant energy. But we're going to look particularly at fire. And first we're going to look at heat and then light. So the qualities of heat. So the heat is invisible. You can't see heat, and yet it affects you. So again, this reminds us of Sutre Mani Gina Iva, that Krishna is the thread under the pearls. So you can't see the thread, but you can see the effects. You notice the effects. So we notice the effects of heat, but do you see heat? Can you see heat itself? No. You can just see it by its effects. And of course, heat is very powerful. Although it's invisible, it has great power. So in the same way, Krishna, although we can't perceive him yet, he's very powerful. And heat is powerful in the sense that it moves things. Heat moves and flows. It moves the water cycle. It's the heat of the sun that pulls up the water that comes down again as the rain. It's the heat from the sun that's vibrating off the earth. It's moving the air currents. So in the same way, Krishna is moving and animating everything. He says he's the life of all that lives. And heat not only moves everything, it excites everything. Heat excites the molecules in a substance so they start crashing into each other. That's the way food is cooked. So whenever we're cooking, we can remember that Krishna is the one who gives all excitation. Krishna says, I am adventure. And of course, heat also destroys structures and creates new ones, especially when we're cooking. So heat is breaking down the structure of the food and creating another structure and a different taste. So in the same way, Krishna is always destroying and creating new structures and new tastes and new enjoyment. And transforming, like heat is transforming the texture and the flavor of food. So Krishna is also transforming. And when we come into contact with Krishna, he cooks us, He transforms our texture and flavor and makes us very, very tasty. Sorry for any of you raw food people, but so Krishna changes us from something hard and dry to something juicy and tasty and full of flavor. And of course, fire is also digesting our food. We have a chemical fire in our stomach, and we have a heat in our body. So Krishna says particularly that he is this fire of digestion. And heat burns. And Krishna says that he is burning all ignorance. And Krishna identifies himself with this heating power of the sun, which is very much related to his Sudarshan weapon. The Sudarshan weapon is very much related to the sun, which sanitizes everything and cleans everything, just like everything is cleaned in the fire of sacrifice. Now, the heat of fire is also compared in the Shastra to the mouth of the Lord that eats everything offered in sacrifice. And Krishna says specifically, I am the heat in fire. Now, we associate warmth and heat with life itself. If something is alive, it's warm. Yes? Something is dead, it's cold. Whenever we experience warmth, like even in this room, we're experiencing the warmth coming from our own bodies. We're experiencing the warmth coming from the sun. So we can remember that this warmth is Krishna, and Krishna is the ultimate life. He's the ultimate life of all lives, the soul of souls. We also associate warmth with love. We talk about a warm embrace. Right? He gave me a cold hug or a warm hug. So Krishna is also full of love. Whenever we experience warmth, we can remember that Krishna is associated with warmth and with love. Then the qualities of light. So light allows us to see and gain knowledge. And Krishna also associates himself. He says, I am the light of the sun and the moon. And he says, Jnana Dipena Bhashmata, that I give light to everything. So just like ordinary light allows us to have knowledge, and we can remember that Krishna is the source of all knowledge. In fact, ultimate spirituality is called enlightenment, when one gets full of light. Now this light is described as coming from the toenails of the Lord. And the Lord's toenails are so bright that if he puts his lotus feet on a multicolored jeweled footstool, that all of the colors wash out and it just simply looks light. We also associate light with welcoming. If you're having guests coming to your house, you turn on the light. Right? It scares away the thieves and welcomes the guests. So in the same way, whenever we see light, we can remember how Krishna is so welcoming. He's always saying, please come home. Please come back and be with me. He is very graciously welcoming us back to his kingdom. In fact, light is not only associated with welcoming to guests, but also with festivities. So many of the holidays of various religions and even national secular holidays are very much associated with lights. Yes? And as Krishna says, he is this light. We can remember that Krishna is very festive. It says in the spiritual world that every day is a festival. Every day is a holiday. Krishna is full of play. We also talk about light-hearted persons, persons who are full of light, very jolly. And Krishna is this Dhira Lalita, who's very jolly in his activities. Light is also the source of all food. All of the vegetables that we eat are simply transformed light, yes? Yes? So all the plants, they're made out of primarily light. Light and a little bit of soil, minerals, and water. So Krishna is this light. We're really eating light. The yogis can just eat light directly, of course. So we're eating light transformed into plants. And so in the same way, Krishna is really giving us everything for our sustenance. And then there's the light of the moon, which is very cooling and beautiful, like a pearl, and refreshing, and increases people's romantic inclinations. So in the same way, Krishna says he's the light of the moon. He's cooling and refreshing, and he incites our divine love. Then there's also the light in one's eyes. Right? Someone who's alive also, they're not only full of warmth, but there's some light. I remember reading this story of a man who made his career by trapping predator animals for the government out west, like coyotes and things like that. And one time he was with his 10-year-old son, and they found an animal still trapped in the trap who was still alive. And as they were watching, the animal died, and the young boy said, "Why did the light go out of his eyes?" And after that, the man changed his career and decided became a vegetarian, decided he was going to protect animals. Bhaktivinoda, in his song, Mana Mana Mandire, he says, "My dear Lord, I will offer you arti with the light of my love." So whenever we see the light in someone's eyes, we can remember how his eyes are full of light. Actually, Krishna's eyes are the sun and the moon, and from Krishna's eyes, all the light in the world is coming, and this light is the light of love. So fire reminds us of Krishna's opulence of beauty, because after all, it is only with light that we see beauty. Light provides the ability to see beauty, the ability to see form, and light is full of all the colors which make up beauty. And Krishna's form also glistens and shines with the light. And it's explained that Krishna's cheeks are like mirrors that reflect the earrings swinging on him. And of course, fire also and light is indication of strength and health. And Krishna's beauty is also full of strength. And then Krishna has some pastimes related to fire. There was twice that Krishna swallowed a forest fire. Krishna in the universal form has the fire coming out of his mouth. Krishna's mouth is considered the fire of sacrifice. And then there's the pastime with the Narayana Jwara and Shiva Jwara, where Krishna's weapon was very cold and quenched the fire. And now we're going to look at air. Now air refers not just to what we breathe, but any material substance in a gaseous form. So air, of course, is very, very subtle. Can anyone tell there's air in this room directly? No. Can you perceive it? No. And yet air is pressing on our skin with 14 pounds of pressure per square inch. So again, it's one of those things that you can only perceive by its effect. You can only perceive air when it moves something else. So we only see Krishna when he acts in the world. We see him through his effects. And of course, when we're breathing, Krishna says, I mix with the 5 kinds of air to digest the foodstuff. And as we read in today's verse, where Arjuna says, Krishna, you are air. So if you try now, become conscious of your breathing, and that air is actually Krishna. Now, air can move things that are apparently much more substantial than itself. Yes? If there's a storm, like a tornado, so a tornado can take a little tiny splinter of wood and push it through a wall of steel. That is the power of air. So although Krishna is very subtle, still he can move things which appear to be more gross and substantial than itself. And the air carries other things without mixing with them. In the same way, Krishna is in our heart, and he's carrying us, but without mixing with our material desires. And air is the most essential physiological need. So if you had a beautiful home covered with jewels and gold in the walls, and fancy, comfortable furniture, and a huge banquet of delicious food, and attractive people that you were with, and beautiful music playing with a live band, and incense smoke of the most wonderful aromas and flowers, but you had no air. Without air, how can you enjoy anything else? Without Krishna, life is useless. Whenever you breathe, think, if I wasn't breathing, what else is there? Don't forget the air. Whatever else you have in your life, don't forget the air. Without air, there's no possibility of having any pleasure or meaning in anything. In the same way, without spiritual life, what is the use of anything else? So, of course, the air makes the plants and the trees dance in the wind and reminds us of how Krishna is the supreme dancer. And air reminds us of Krishna's qualities of strength. Right? One big gust of air can destroy an entire town, isn't it? There's those towns in Oklahoma, it's just one big air storm. Everything finished. And Krishna has pastimes related in air. He likes to fly on Garuda through the air and breathing out universes. And of course, the air goes through Krishna's flute and makes wonderful melodies. So I don't think we have time to go to space. That will have to wait. If you like, we wrote an article in Back to Godhead also on each of these. We wrote a series of articles on each of these, so you can also read about space. But the point is, going back to the original thing, that Prabhupada says that illusion exists only within the mind. God is everywhere. Sarvakalamidam Brahma. Krishna is everywhere. To be absorbed in spiritual thought does not require that you have to become some very advanced monk living in the Himalayas, eating only fruits and berries. No matter where one's moving in the world and where one goes, there's always the earth. There's always water. There's always air. There's always light. There's always heat. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we can be fully conscious of Krishna and fully conscious of reality and absorbed in the spiritual. I'd like to suggest that maybe each of us, each day, can think, what aspect of my everyday life am I going to focus on today that'll help remind me of Krishna? And just imagine, if everyone in the world did that. Suppose everyone in the world had everything that they contacted remind them of the spiritual. What kind of a society would we have? Thank you. Hare Krishna. And now we have Kirtan, Arti.